It's time for Football at 4 with Adam Caplan.
I have real confidence that our football operations can once again create a dominant football team.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
This is Football at 4. It's powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, which dropped this morning. A new one is out with Jeff Mosher and this man, Adam Caplan, from the Inside the Birds podcast as the Eagles OTAs continue. They made a bevy of moves today. So many things have come out this week from OTAs. I thought maybe you were going to get your WCW championship belt there or something.
No, what happened is my light flickered here, so I want to make sure it stayed on in my studio here. But yeah, look, the Eagles made a bunch of front office moves, nothing major, but they reassigned. When I say reassigned, they gave people different titles. Some are promotions, some are lateral moves, but the big one with Catherine Rage, who moved up to VP of Football Operations, that's definitely a big role. That's going to be sort of closer to Howie Roseman, the general manager. And this is a move. If you listen to Jeffrey Lurie, Mike, the owner of the Eagles, talk about her, he's a big fan of hers. So she gets to move up. And by the way, I was talking to someone who worked with her with the Montreal Alouettes. This guy's a big fan of hers. And she's young. She's in her early 30s, and she's very talented. And now this job, as I understand it, is a sort of a jack of all trades. It's projects, it's research. And this is what Andrew Berry did for his 1 year with the Eagles, which is an important job. The research role in personnel is pretty big, information gathering, filtering information, stuff like that. That's an important role. And she gets a VP title, which is pretty big.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are saying, okay, what is her background? Where did she come from? She's now the highest-ranking female personnel executive in NHL history. I mean, so she's essentially one step away from running the personnel department, correct?
Well, yeah, look, if you look at it this way, Andrew Berry moved on from his role under Howie Roseman in a similar role to general manager of the Browns. So, yeah, you could say that. And the other one now, this is interesting. Dave Caldwell, the former Jaguars GM, was hired as a personnel executive. Yeah. So, and I'm also told that he came over from. He was actually a consultant for the Ravens before the draft. So Dave is an experienced guy. He knows Howie Roseman very well. They go back many years, and let's not forget that they made the AFC Championship game in 2017, and it wasn't for Tom Coughlin's issues or the players that had issues with Tom Coughlin still to be the general manager. Remember, a lot of players were disgruntled because of their issues with Coughlin, and they wanted to move on. So Dave is an experienced guy, and he's added to the staff.
Yeah, I mean, who was the guy from Cleveland last year in the Chiefs that was here in that kind of role? This is a much more prominent role than – and who was that guy?
Oh, Andrew Berry?
No. The guy – who was the GM?
Oh, John Dorsey. Yeah, John Dorsey. Yes.
John Dorsey was in it was more of an advisory role. This is more of an actual, job, correct?
Yeah, personnel executive. It's just his title is personnel executive. That could be anything because they're not giving him a specific title of what he's going to be doing. But when you look at what he can do, because he's done it all, being a general manager, and he's been in the league, formerly of the Falcons and the Colts. He's there to advise. They could, like my friend Phil Savage, who former Browns GM, who worked with me at ESPN. Joe Douglas brought him in because Joe Douglas worked under Phil with the Ravens, and Phil has some college schools in terms of just a general area. So Dave Caldwell could have a variety of roles, and he's another guy who's experienced that Howie Roseman has brought in.
Yeah, so I guess everybody goes, why did they make all these changes? Is this because they didn't draft well? What's the message when you see a reshaping of the front office like this, Adam?
What it is also Brandon Brown, who got a promotion to – he's sort of a co-director of player personnel because Ian Cunningham got his title back of director of player personnel. Brandon Brown's a promotion. He was their pro personnel director. He's a guy who's highly thought of with their personnel staff. Phil Bayek, who's now got a promotion, he gets a better area, who's highly thought of. Matt Holland, he got a sort of a lateral move. He was formerly on the pro side. Now he's on the college side as a Northeast scout. Jeff Scott used to work for Washington. He replaces Matt Holland on the pro side. And Mina Solomon now, who you might know is the other female in the personnel department, she got a small promotion as a pro scout. So no, it has nothing to do with people not doing well. It's just that the big thing is Eagles are big on titles. And as Jeff Mosher and I have said for many years since we started the Inside the Bird show since 2018, their titles sometimes do not correctly reflect of what they're actually doing.
Let me ask you that. This is kind of like just, you have any idea how these people, what do they do to get what is the background of like some of the, to be a scout or something to that effect? You know, if somebody says, hey, how did she get this job? Or how did he get that job? What are they kind of going through to get to land these jobs?
So it's a good question, Mike. So they generally will start as a scouting assistant, right? That is the lowest level of scouting.
What do they get paid?
And then, I'm sorry?
What's that guy get, a low-level scouting assistant getting paid? No idea?
Yeah, you're going to get 40 to 50 grand a year because you're just out of college. It's your first job, and it's about as low. And you know what those guys and gals do? They generally are picking up food. They might be getting coffee, and they are assistants. They do whatever the person who they work for wants them to do. It's a low-level, entry-level job it's about as low as you can get. Then you work your way up, and then you become hopefully a college scout. And then if you're a good college scout, you let's say you get one area, you get a better area. Like Phil Bye got the Southeast. That's big. That's in a way promotion. So I think you have to look at that. And then when you look at Brandon Brown, that's a big promotion for Brandon Brown. Going from pro personnel director to player personnel, director of player personnel, that is a jump. That technically, the next step for him would be assistant GM or general manager. So everybody seems to be moving up, or at worst, they were reassigned to an equal job.
All right, so let's look at some things that have happened this week with Adam Caplan here, because I think it's been an interesting week. First off, today, you guys on Inside the Birds, and Mosher had kind of been the one that said this on Football at 4 about Brandon Brooks, and I was kind of like, they can't trade Brandon Brooks. I mean, come on, man, this is one of the best right guards in football. He admitted today that he was on the trade block, but he said, I really wish I would have heard from someone other than my mother. So he's getting the reporting, or she's hearing the reporting, and the team didn't say, hey, we're trying to trade you, which I guess they don't owe that to him, but maybe so. But are you surprised that the team tried to trade Brooks?
No, but here's what I would say. I don't know if they were trying to trade him. The word around the league was he was available because he's come off of an injury. But theoretically, Mike, to be honest with you, most players are available. If you cornered a general manager, you'd say, is this guy available? Yeah, for the right offer, sure. But I don't think I wouldn't say they were really shopping him. I look at it that way. We put this out a couple months ago that it was known around the league towards the draft that maybe he could be had, depending on what the offer was. But I would say I wouldn't call that. That's usual talk. You would not believe how many conversations are had around the National Football League, and very few of them happen. So I don't put a little. I don't. And to answer your question, I think it's a fair point. Is it really, let's say a team called the Eagles, right, for Brandon Brooks. Let's say they engage that team. Is it really the front office's responsibility to tell them, hey, we had a conversation with the team that they called us? No, that's not. And Brandon Brooks, and I mean, Jeff and Moshe and I are huge fans of Brandon Brooks. I understand what he's talking about, but this is just the way it is in the National Football League. So I wouldn't read anything into that at all, other than I understand what he means by that. But it's really, look, he's their starting guard this season. Now, the reason why we said he was going to be a hard person to trade is we had reported a year ago that he had what's called an advance guarantee on his contract, that his base salary for 2021 became fully guaranteed in 2020. And I give his agent, Joe Panos, who actually played for the Eagles, credit for getting that in his contract.
Adam Caplan, Football at 4. And then today, Brandon Brooks, he did say that he's confident that he's got to have no ill effects from this Achilles tear and that he's ready to go. And there shouldn't be any reason why he wouldn't if you've seen him anyway. I mean, the guy's in fantastic shape.
He's unbelievable. Yeah, someone said, and it was pretty funny. Someone put on our Inside the Birds YouTube page comments. I go in there, I clear out. We get spam in there sometimes, and I'll look at the comments every once in a while. And I saw this guy. One guy said it was great. He said that I think Brooks should be in the WWE. He looks like that. He's so jacked up. And what a great story. And what a great guy he's been to be very public about his challenges with anxiety, and I applaud him.
I literally said he should fight Brock Lesnar in an MMA cage. That's how good a shape that Brandon Brooks looks like. So that's good.
He does.
Shane Steichen mentioned over the weekend that his eyes keep going to the offensive line, which includes Brandon Brooks. We heard Lane Johnson. He's kind of cleared for everything in the offseason here now, which is good news. We'll see if he gets cleared for that for the all season. So that offensive line is kind of going to be a story, I think, with Steichen saying that, how good they look on tape. And then someone messaged on our Facebook, which line is he watching? I was like, the one that led him to the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years if they're healthy.
But Mike, here's the comments here, right? Here's the thing with this situation with their offensive line. They've got 3 players on their offensive line who are 30 years or older. And also Seumalo, who's much younger, he had a significant knee injury last season, a significant time. Dillard's also it's coming off a significant injury. He didn't even play last season. So those are the issues.
Yep.
Can they stay whole? But I agree with your assessment. If they could stay together and play, and it's a 17-game season, I still have problems processing that. It's just weird to me. But if they could play 15 out of 17 games together, yeah, they're a top 3 line. I would agree with that.
All right, let's look at what OTAs are about the skill position players. You get a chance to kind of see them running around, making plays, and everybody likes to see the rookies. So the Eagles have a perfect blend here. They got 2 young receivers, OTAs. This is made for them. What are we learning about the roles? Jalen Reagor said, I'm going to play probably in the slot more. Then he kind of said, well, I'm going to be all over the place. But did he give us a little clue of how the Eagles see him in 2021?
Yeah, what we put out on our show, and people didn't quote us, right? So thank God Mosher was on your show yesterday, and was on our show obviously this morning, cleared up from his reporting. So Jeff, what I had said on our show back in February is that the early word on Reagor is he's going to be moved around. He's going to see some time in the slot. So some of these, what I call micro-bloggers, these kids on Instagram who are trying to build their following, there are like 7 of them on Instagram. And they kept quoting me saying that Reagor was going to be moved to the slot. I didn't say that. Mosher didn't say that. Jeff said this morning that he's going to be moved around. And here's what happened. So the reporters only get access to the warm-ups and practice, and they saw him in the slot in warm-ups. That doesn't mean that's where he's going to play this season. That just means that's where he warmed up at. And Jeff said that he's going to be, from what he's heard, he's going to play. They're going to move him around. So, no, he's not going to just be in the slot. That's definitely not correct.
Right, exactly, because people are like, well, and they made a mistake because they said Jefferson. They didn't draft him because he was a slot guy,
God.
Right, that whole thing. It's like, no, they're going to move Reagor wherever they deem him, because I think we can all agree that Peterson did not do a good job utilizing Reagor's skill set last year.
Yeah, Jalen Reagor, and I understand in the coach's defense, he had 2 different injuries, the broken thumb, the sprained shoulder, they're both pretty significant injuries. And the missed practice time, I think, set him back because I know coaches will tell me over the years, we don't want to give guys, especially rookies, too much on their plate. But Mosher, if you remember last year, he was the first person to report that they were cross-training Reagor for a variety of roles. And I don't look, we've criticized Peterson enough. I think if Reagor had not suffered those 2 injuries, he probably would have done what you were talking about, being moved all around. There's certain things they couldn't do with him because he missed too much time. But Devante Smith, by the way, just to add to this receiver talk before we move on with the rookies, another guy's going to be moved around. I don't know that, if you remember that the head coach, Nick Sirianni, he tried to downplay the X and Z positions. Because the reason is they're going to be moved around so much, they're not going to be what's called static. They're not going to be in one just place. They're going to take advantage of their method. Mike, is that this staff is going to be big on matchups. So when the receivers are getting moved around, they're going to scheme these guys to get open. Which, by the way, Kyle Shanahan is probably the best in the National Football League at doing.
Now, let's look. You mentioned the rookies, Devante Smith. What are we seeing from him? It sounds like, already he catches the ball. That's different from the receivers they've had on this roster in the past. But what else do we see and know about how they're going to utilize him?
Yeah, and the thing that I do want to add to this is that, and this is important, he brings such a presence to their receiver room to the field. He practices a certain way. He sets the example. We've talked about this on Inside the Birds. From what we had heard, there was a lot of immaturity with their receiver core. It's not a secret to anyone who covers the team if you really know the team. And they needed to get an alpha, is what we had heard, and they need to get someone who's mature. And Devante Smith, and I know part of it's he played for Nick Saban, so you're probably going to be pretty mature. He comes in there and he is the guy for that room, and he set the tone from what I understand of practice, and that's exactly what they needed. And I'm starting to see why that they drafted him. We all knew a little bit about him, but I start to see that they understood there's some intangible quality that he has that the other guys seem to not have.
All right, so they got a pick number 1, first round this year, first round last year. Any interest in Julio Jones?
Yeah, what we had said on our show today is we know that the Eagles have talked to the Falcons, but look, they're not. I look at it this way, Mike. I know they're going to get cap credits next week on June 2nd for the Malik Jackson release and Alshon Jeffrey release. I get it. They also have to sign the rookies. So some of that is going to be wiped out, that cap credit, for once they sign the rookies, which they should start signing next week, so they'll have the cap space to do it. I'm not saying they're not going to trade for Julio Jones. I would put a high percentage on it. Them taking on $50 million of salary when they're not. See, the thing is here, a team that's a little bit closer to winning a title or going deeper in the playoffs, it would make more sense to me. And I definitely think he's going to, if he gets traded, it's going to be, by the way, I think he will get traded, Julio Jones. I don't know if it's going to be next week or the trade deadline in October. But the Falcons, the reason why he's, in addition to their awful cap problem, they can't even trade him right now because of the cap, is because they're in a rebuild, particularly on defense, and they have a major cap issue. And then Julio, you never, Mike, the thing that personnel people always tell me, you never want to wait till it's too late to trade a player. Jones has probably got 2 or 3 years left in him. He was pretty injured last season, 32 years old, $15.3 million salary, fully guaranteed this season, $2 million partial guarantee, and it's only injury guarantee. So of his 3 years remaining, he's really got a 1-year structure. So it's a tough call for the Eagles. Odds are against it, but I'm not ruling it out because he transforms that receiver room if they would trade for him. And knowing the Eagles, as we all do, if a big player becomes available, you just cannot rule it out.
All right, Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. We'll leave with this. On the defensive side of the ball, we know they still have a huge hole at corner. Eric Wilson spoke today. They have Alex Singleton. Would they look to add to that defense? Jordan Hicks' name has come up. He's a former Eagle. Arizona said, hey, you can go look for a trade. Does he make any sense? Well,
when I was first asked about this 2 months ago, I said absolutely no way. That's before he got his pay cut. Now that he's only making $2 million this season, I'm going to be keeping an eye on that in the next couple of weeks. Other than Eric Wilson, I don't know. Alex Singleton, I know he was a great story last season. There's no question about it. I don't want to say it came out of nowhere. They'd had him since 19. Now you got a new coaching staff here. We'll have to see how he fits in. The only starter for sure is Eric Wilson. We'll see on Alex Singleton. I would not rule out a return for Jordan Hicks because he's a veteran player. He's only making $2 million. I know he turns 30. He has an injury history. They drafted Zaven Collins in Arizona, so they obviously made him available. And I know a Cardinal source said that don't rule Philly out. So we'll see. I'm not saying there's a problem. I just don't put percentages on anything unless I'm involved. But it just makes too much sense to me. To answer your question, it would make a lot of sense, but we'll see. We'll put a high percentage on it.
I'll tell you what, if they were able to get Hicks and then somehow got a corner, don't you think the anticipation for this season would be different?
It is, but I'll tell you what. Look, we don't have time to talk about Ryan Kerrigan. I mean, we can talk about him next Thursday. We talked about it on the inside. Listen to my comments on this morning's show. They're pretty strong.
All right, that's the Inside the Birds pod. You can find at Inside Birds, wherever you guys get your podcast. Adam Caplan at Caplan NFL. Don't forget, new pods on Mondays and Thursdays drop at 6 a.m. And then check out all the other stuff on the Inside the Birds platform. Q&A did a great show this week. I implore you guys to check that out as well. He's Adam Caplan. It's Football at 4 here. Have a great Memorial Day weekend, man.
You too, my friend. And also one more thing. I have my Twitch channel, 7 to 8 p.m. If you folks do Twitch, we talk about all 32 teams on Twitch. So, Mike, you two and your listeners stay safe and have a good weekend.